Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Morning.
Hey, Adam's back. Back for some Bagua.
How's it going, Eli?
It's going pretty good, Adam. Yeah, life's good. I managed to hang up my new kick bag yesterday, so I'm very happy. I put a little bolt in the roof up there. Wow, it's hard to point. Hang on, there it is.
Yeah.
That way. That's really hard. Hang on. That one. Um, yeah, so we'll be able to start doing some bag work in these classes now that I've got that one up. Just a
Yeah,
bit
great.
of use it as a little bit during our warm-up sessions, do a bit of punching and kicking.
Night boxing next to us.
That'll keep Esther happy. No, life is going good. I'm pretty much back into work now. I feel like I've finished everything to do with the house. So for the last, when did we move in? September? Since September, it's been like really full on redecorating, fixing up the house kind of thing, along with, doing work as well. But I haven't been able to really get into any kind of new projects and stuff with work. I've just had to do the bare minimum sort of thing, and then taking care of the kids, homeschooling, all of that stuff. Now all of that house stuff seems to be finished, apart from a couple of small little bitsy bits, but everything's good. So I feel like now this week I can really start getting back into training side of things properly, and finish my new grading book that I think everyone will love when that comes out. So yeah.
Grading book.
Yeah.
Excited about that.
New official grading book. One book that just houses everything, so you don't need to keep asking which bits should I be focusing on, blah, blah, blah. You just have turn the page. Oh, that's what I've got to do next. Just making it all. Obviously, you can still, offshoot and go like, I feel like doing a bit of this and a bit of that. You still, listen to your own body as well. But as far as like the primary focus of what you should be training to progress in your in the style you're learning, I've written out a whole book. It's basically finished. I'm just doing the proofreading and the sort of like, hang on, maybe I'll put that bit in grade 3, but I'll leave that bit for grade 4. I'm just sort of like refining the last little details, because I don't want to sort of put it out there and then be like a year later, oh, sorry guys, I've decided to change this or that around. I want to try and get it as precise as possible before I print it out and send it to everyone. So, yeah. Alrighty then. Let's get into some Bagua. Are you serious? That's interesting. All right. Sorry, I was just in thought there. Something to do with my camera when it's plugged in and when it's not plugged in. I'll tell you later. All right, so we'll do a quick warm up, and then we'll get into some movement. Okay. Spinal warm-ups. We're going to focus on warm-ups that will help us to do the Bagua form. So, we'll start off with our usual, just to get the full vertical spinal movement happening. So that is arching your lower back, so sticking your bum out like so, bending the knees, pushing the chest up forward, pulling the elbows back, keeping the shoulders down, and then pushing your palms back, looking up, so everything's bent back that way. Then breathe out and fold yourself, curl up into a ball. Then breathe in, open it all back out again. Breathe out, curl it up. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. Breathe in, breathe out. One more time. In breath, out breath. Hands out to the sides, squeezing the shoulders back, rotating the arms externally from the shoulders, standing up to the balls of the feet, tall as you can, lifting up, and then pushing down the center. Same again. In breath, out breath. In breath, out breath. In breath, out breath. In breath, out breath. Same thing, but up the center. In breath. And then pull your shoulders back like you're sliding your elbows and your palms on the wall behind you. In breath. Standing onto the toes. Out breath. Relaxing down. In breath. Out breath. In breath. Out breath. Hinge forward from your hips, either to 45 degrees, if that's difficult enough for you, or down to 90 degrees. So get as close to 90 as what is comfortable for you, but with a straight back. So not rounding the back to get down here. You must be able to get a straight back down at 90 degrees. Then relax your back. So let it round from that position. Then let it straighten back up. Or make it straighten back up. Let it relax. Breathing out. And straighten it back up. Breathing in. Keep that going. Keep it going, but this time open your arms up as you do it. So flap your arms out as you breathe in. Relax them down as you breathe out. Again, if you start getting a little tired, if your legs start getting too sore or your lower back starts getting too sore, then come back up to a 45-degree bend rather than staying in the full 90-degree hinged forward position. So you might be able to start here, but maybe you can't last as long. And then let your spine just roll up by straightening your legs. Rolling the spine up and straightening your head up at the top. Breathing in. Okay. We'll do a little bit of legs. and then a little bit of twisting. Okay, so the legs, you may have noticed we've been doing a lot of this one lately. This elbow to opposite knee one, if you've been following the classes, not this Bagua class, this is the first of the instructional Bagua classes where we're going to go through the form. So we'll be starting absolutely from scratch in this particular class. But all the other classes we've been doing this month, I've been doing that exercise in the Taiji classes, in all the classes, because it's such a good setup for when we do this movement in the Bagua form. Look what we're doing there, look. This is just a really simplified version. So you're still working all the same muscles, or almost all the same muscles, just without all the complexity of the form postures. So we'll do that again now. In fact, I'll face you. So as a warm-up, but also to get used to that movement. So again, elbow to opposite knee. You might just come halfway down, like so. In breath, out breath. The weight is towards that leg that you're trying to touch. And obviously, try to get down as close as you can and preferably touch the knee with that elbow. I'm bending the knees. I'm hinging forward at the hips. My rear arm is stretching out to the rear, so I'm squeezing my shoulder blade back, fully opening up that shoulder and fully closing this shoulder. So try to get it right across your chest, not just kind of to here each time you do it. Try and twist your body a little, you see? So see how I'm trying to look up that way when I do it? Rather than just going here, I'm going here. So I'm twisting my spine as I go down. That's something I've not mentioned yet in the other warm-up classes. So try to put your knee, not just on your elbow, not just on your knee, but on the outside of your knee. See, get it to the outside on this side of your knee. That'll help you to get into that spinal stretch movement. Okay, let's just lengthen the legs out a little bit. I always like to lengthen my legs out before I do anything in the morning. So we'll just go down onto our hands and knees. So sinking down, just slide your hands down your front. Do this as difficult or as easy as you want. So you can start walking forward. You can put your knees straight down onto the floor if you wish. You're still using, just crawling around, just crawling. You're already using your shoulder muscles to some degree. Obviously, you're using your shoulder muscles much more when you crawl and you're in a plank position. There's much more weight on your shoulders. So if you can, crawl down into a plank position. If you can't, put your knees on the ground. Or put your knees on the ground as late as possible. Maybe you can make it to here before you put your knees on the ground. Maybe you can make it all the way to the end and then go, oh, okay, that's hard, and then put your knees down. So, you know, listen to your own body, but give it a little push in the right direction at the same time. Okay, so from that planking position, strengthening those shoulders, warming up the core. Bring one foot up to the front, to the outside of your palm, and it's turned out to the right at 45 degrees. Point your rear toe and wriggle around that rear hip. So just lengthen into that rear hip. Turn your body on the side. So you're turning towards your front leg. Stretching a little bit down through the side of the hip, side of the core. Opening up that region. Bringing it back to the front. And then just bring your focus into your front leg. So you're still in the same position essentially, but you're just bringing your focus onto your front leg, and that is sinking down onto it. If you can go lower by putting your elbows on the ground, great. If not, then just stay where you were with your palms on the ground. And then coming back up, spin it round the hip. So stretching into the hamstring, just opening up those muscles. Again, as I always say, we're not going for like improving your flexibility here. That's why we're not holding long passive stretches. You don't want to do that before any kind of a workout. You want to do that at the end of a workout. Remind me to tell you something about stretching at the end of this class. Stretching and cooling down. So I'm just wriggling around, obviously keeping this knee pointing in the same direction as my toes. Doesn't matter which direction that is, so long as the toes and the knee point in the same direction. So I've not got my toes here and my knee sort of somewhere across here or something, putting pressure, twisting pressure on the side of the knee. Keep the knee and the toe pointing the same direction. Bend the knee a little, sink onto it. But again, see, it's all active, it's all moving, it's waking up the muscles. Like when you see a dog wake up in the morning, they stretch their body, they do a downward dog. They're always stretching their body when they first wake up so they don't pull a muscle. We should do the same thing. Obviously, us humans do a lot more sitting at desks and things like that, so we need a bit more opening up of the body. Come forward into the exact reverse position. So again, that front foot is turned out at 45 degrees from the direction you're facing. Point your rear toe and relax your body into that rear hip. You can keep the knee on the ground. So I've got weight on my knee now. Or you can lift that knee off the ground. You get a little bit more pressure coming into the hip flexors with the knee off the ground. Turn towards your standing leg, stretching through, opening up this side region of your core and over the side of your hip, bringing it back to the front. And again, only if you're able to, try and sink down to get your elbows on the ground. Spin it around just like we did before. Lengthen in and open up those hamstrings. Bend the knee. Come into the center with your feet out at 90 degrees to each other, double shoulder width, fists on the ground. So you can put some weight on your fists if you need to, or keep them off the ground. Just relax. And then try and stand up, straighten your body. And relax up. Okay. We'll just do a quick one on twisting, and then we'll get into the form, okay? So a small twisting action. Let's see, which one shall we do today? Let's just do a real simple one, and then we'll get into the form. Nothing too complex. So all you're going to do is, I want you to, this is one of the fundamental movements of Bagua, is this kind of twisting of the spine. You know, when you see people walking the circles, that's going to be a problem. I'm going to have to slightly adjust my body each time I do my different postures in the Bagua form in this room. So anyway, when you get to this, you get these kind of movements in the Bagua form where we're twisting around, spinning the body. The body? Sorry, it's very early. Or then you'll get postures where you lock your feet into one position and twist through the spine, like so. So there's a lot of twisting in Bagua. So all we're going to do is, just to begin with, just hold your body like so. Keep your feet parallel and facing forwards. The most important thing here is that you keep your knees strong, okay? Let's see. Let's do both versions actually as we do it. Let's start out with a rear weighted twist. So that means I'm going to sit, you mirror me. I'm going to sit down into my rear leg. This is not just warming up now, this is learning principles of Bagua, of making sure we keep our knees strong and structured for when we go into the form. Because when we're doing the form, there's going to be a lot of other stuff you're thinking about with the hands and so on. And so you might forget about the knee. And I'm sure you've all heard the rumors that Bagua is bad for your knees. Total myth. It's only bad for your knees because people do it like this. They do it incorrectly because they try to learn too many movements too quickly. They don't learn the movements properly. And they do the movements too fast in the beginning. And so they wreck their knees. You could wreck your knees just as easily in Taiji as well, if done incorrectly. Any sport, any movement, if you don't do it properly, you're going to damage yourself. Okay, so feet parallel. All we're going to do to start with is simply turn the body as far to one side as you possibly can. That means your lower center, your pelvis, is going to rotate by opening up this hip, you see, like so. Now that's going to limit you, depending on where your limitations are. For most people, it's probably going to be the front leg actually that limits how far you can go. If I could probably turn a bit further by opening, this hip could open a bit further if I let that foot go, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to keep my feet parallel. I'm going to turn my center. So my pelvis is going to be facing somewhere roughly 45 degrees from the front, depending on your own level of flexibility and mobility. But you'll notice this knee, the standing knee, is the most important because that's the one with your weight on it. The empty leg is still important. We shouldn't be forgetting about the empty leg. Even if it's completely empty, we shouldn't be forgetting about it. Even if it's off the ground, sure, there's no weight on it, so you're not going to damage your knee when your weight is off the ground, off the floor. But you're also not strengthening it. So even when your foot is off the ground, we still think about the structure so that we're strengthening all those muscles that stabilize the knee for when it comes back onto the ground. But of course, the standing leg is a bit more important because it's that standing leg which, if you let it twist in like this, that's where you are going to damage your knee. So just turn your body, knee in line with toe, as far as you can. As I say, you might find this hip here opening is your limitation, or you might find that this hip closing, because my left hip at the moment is internally rotating, it's closing in. That might be your limitation. Are you feeling like your big toe is coming off the ground? Don't let your big toe come off the ground when you come into this position. So twist in, you'll have to squeeze the quad, squeeze the hips in here, the adductors. Squeeze them in to stop this from happening, to stop your knee from pushing out, because there's pressure being pushed that direction. So your knee's wanting to go that way, you've got to draw it in by squeezing these muscles in here, like so. The opposite is true in this leg. When we open the hip, the tendency, if we just completely relax the body, the knee will sag in. This is where, especially in Taiji, more so than Bagua, people are always constantly talking about relax, relax. You want to be as soft as possible. Relax, relax, relax. And so beginners are like, oh, so relax, yeah. Oh, now that feels tense. I better not do that. Totally incorrect. You have to be very strong in your Taiji and your Bagua to hold certain structures. Relaxation comes through correct structure. When your body is in the correct structure, you have to use tension to get into that correct structure, to activate the muscles to hold the body in certain places. Then as your body gets used to those positions, the muscles will feel softer, even though they're still doing a strong work. But then the rest of the body can relax. If I go, oh, relax the lower legs, it might somehow feel a little bit more, yeah, I'm not using as much muscle, so I'm more relaxed. But the aftermath effect is that you'll feel tense because you've been using poor posture. It's like if you walk around with good posture all day or sit at your desk with good posture, you don't feel tense at the end of the day. If you sit at your desk like this for 3 hours, then you get, and you can't straighten up, then you feel all tense, even though in the moment you felt more relaxed by relaxing your body. poor posture. So relaxation can cause tension if it's the wrong kind of relaxation. Okay, so again, turning the body. Feel where that limitation is. When you meet that limitation, allow your mid-center, so this sort of region here, your abdomen area, to keep spinning. So your spine is turning. See, my pelvis is not turning any further. And essentially, it's just one big spiral going up through your center. Each vertebra on the spine is turning that little bit more than the previous one. So one turns, the next turn, it's just spiraling up through your body. See, my body turning now, I'm not turning my pelvis any further than that corner where it started from. That's about as far as I can go. And then I'm going to switch my weight back to my other leg and do the exact opposite. Again, the pelvis is only going to go to about here. Feel your knees, feel your pelvis, but the rest of the body keeps spiraling, 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 but make sure it's coming from your core. And it's not just, for example, going here and then going like this. That's just me moving my arms, you see. I'm not just moving my shoulders. I'm not just moving my upper chest or something. Always move from the ground up. So that's why my pelvis moves first. There's my pelvis. Then really think about this bit just above your pelvis. Okay, so my belly has to twist here. Then sort of like, okay, my lower rib section has to twist. It can help by using your hands as well. And then the upper chest, upper ribs, twisting, twisting. And then the shoulders, the very top portion of your spine here, is the last little bit to twist, like so. So, slow and controlled movements for now. No momentum. Spinning it back the other way. Similar to the squatting stretch that we just did earlier, one hand, the one on the outside that's moving backwards, is pulling backwards, so you're opening up that shoulder. The other one is closing in, just to give you something to do with your hands. And I'm sitting back as I do it. I'm like almost 100% back. I've got sort of 5-10% of my weight in that front leg sort of for control and stability, but I am essentially sitting backwards. Bring it back again. Breathing out into the twist. Breathing in as you come back to the front. That's where you'll feel a bit more relaxed because everything's aligned. In breath, out breath. If you're going to think about something, think about that standing knee. Opening up the hip. So you should feel your glutes, not your gluteus maximus, but your gluteus minimus and medius around the side here. This is the region here that should be squeezing to stop that knee from caving in. Open it out. Pull that like you're starting a mower. Okay? Okay, we're going to keep that movement going. If you're feeling comfortable with it, not too fast, but just a little bit of momentum coming into the movement. But really, now that we're going quicker, I want you to focus all your attention on that standing knee. Don't even worry if the hands aren't getting quite as far as they were before. You got that momentum, so whoa, you're much more likely to get that knee collapsing in. So I want you to really focus your intent, really put your mind on that knee. We want to keep our body strong. So think about the glutes, opening up that hip each time we stretch, we twist. So see, this is okay to go a little bit faster with some momentum because the movement's so simple. Once you start doing the Bagua form, my recommendation is to start off nice and slowly and only do it slowly in the beginning, simply because there's so much other stuff you're going to be thinking about. Like, oh, I've got to do this with my hands. Oh, whoops, all of a sudden I forgot to think about the knee, and so it collapses. Whereas this is so simple, you can get that idea of putting a bit of momentum into it. Okay, we're just going to do the same thing now. Shouldn't need as much talking, so we'll just drill through it a bit, and then we'll start the Bagua form. But going into the front leg. So the only difference here is we're going to be sinking into the front leg, okay? So same principle. The leg you're closing will be squeezing. The leg you're moving away from, that hip is opening. So even though I don't have my weight on that leg, it can still collapse in. See the little toe? I don't know if you can see that on the camera, but my little toe is sort of leaning up off the ground. My big toe is pushing into the ground. So push that little toe down of the empty leg, and push the big toe down of the standing leg, okay? You'll probably find your pelvis can't turn as far in this position. That's how most people are built anyway. In a rearward position, you can usually open things up more as I come into, if I take that position, right? As I come into my front leg, I can't quite hold that exact same position. My pelvis has to turn a little bit further to this direction. So you'll find the limitation of how far your pelvis could turn will be a little more when you're front weighted like so, in that parallel stance, of course, without letting your foot turn out, compared to the rear stance. Okay, so exactly the same thing, just sink into the front leg. Nice and slow and controlled to begin with. In breath at the front, out breath into the stretch. In breath, out breath. Feel your body squeezing the hips, the glutes, everything stabilizing those knees and hips, squeezing the spinal muscles all throughout, squeezing up. Oh, and when I say weight forward, so the rear weighted version we did, I said we're about 90 to 95% in the back leg. Whereas the front weighted version, we're only going to about 70 to 80% in that front leg. I'm not trying to sink all the weight. It just feels awkward to do that. So yeah, you're not fully down in that leg. Not in this position. Okay, let's bring a little bit of light momentum into it. Again, really now that we're going faster, focus all your intent on your knees, stabilizing your knees. Really feel that your feet stay flat on the ground. If you keep your feet flat on the ground, it's pretty hard to collapse your knees if your feet are flat. Unless you've got some kind of funny joints. I've never met someone yet who can collapse the knee and have the foot in the right structure. So actually, if you think about your feet being planted on the ground and not sort of bowing at all from either way, you should be pretty good. So a little bit of momentum. Okay. Right, just before we start the form itself, we're going to start off with the first palm change. We'll probably focus on the movements of that first little introduction, the preparation. There's actually a small sequence of movements that we do before we even get into the official first palm change. So that's our little like introduction in. Then we walk the circle. We walk around our circle with the very specific way of walking. We're not just walking around the circle. I never quite understood that. You see so many Bagua styles. Not to have a go at other styles. I've seen a lot of different things being done in Bagua, and as long as you're doing something different than just walking, then great. But I see a lot of people, it's like what are you doing exactly? You're not twisting your body, you're not holding your hands in any special shape, you're not turning your core, you're not moving, you're not sinking, you're just kind of waddling around. How is that any different than walking down the street? Same in your Taiji form. When I see people stepping through the form like this, kind of just plonking into their feet, well, how is that any better than walking? That's what you do every day when you just walk around. You're not getting anything more. The Taiji form should be doing something more, something different for our body. Hence the reason we take those empty steps when we're practicing. Anyway, yeah, after you've walked the circle once, then this would be regarded as the first palm change. Back to here, you walk the circle, you do it on the other side. Okay. Now, obviously, I do not have a circle painted on my carpet. We've just moved into this place, so I don't have that yet. I have a center at least for you for reference. This is the center of the circle. And again, you know, I am limited on space here. I'm trying to get rid of this thing. I'm in process of being able to see if I can cut that a little bit back, because that's where the stairs go, upstairs basically. But I think I can get rid of at least this little pointy bit here, give me a bit more space. Anyway, yeah, having the center there is the main thing you need to have reference as to, okay, you're facing around the circle, you're facing outside the circle, you're facing inside the circle. So having that center point. So I recommend for your own training, if you haven't got a circle painted on the ground, at least just grab a water bottle or something and put it there as a center reference so you know which way to be turning your body. We already had one question, which I'll just answer quickly. The question was actually, could you explain the difference between Taiji and Bagua? I'm not going to do that on this lesson because that would take the rest of the lesson to explain that. It's very intricate. But all I'll say on that is there's a lot more similarity between Taiji and Bagua than there are differences. They seem very different to look at them, but fundamentally, well, they come from the same origin. They literally come from the same style. There's this style back here, and then Taiji and Bagua came from that style. So they literally have the same roots. So they're very, very similar, but of course there are differences. But I will do a separate video for YouTube or something at some point. So if anyone has those questions, I'll answer those in a separate video so that we can get into training now. The other simple question though was circles versus spirals. So I'll just quickly explain that. This applies to Taiji and Bagua. Is it circular or is it spiraling? Well, it's always both. So in the beginning, we start off with circles. This again, Taiji or Bagua, this totally applies to both. We start off with circles. The spirals only happen where they are obvious. So let's say I throw a punch in the small sandsow. Boom, there's a spiral. Look, whack, there's a simple spiral. It's a very basic spiral, but it's a spiral, you see. As opposed to my hand being here, you see. Because why would you do that? You know, your hand's there, well, boom, you've already got a spiral. If you go the other way, you've got a spiral. So there's spirals, more commonly, spirals on the straight lines. But even the circles, such as an obvious example, that I'm assuming here that everyone's starting Bagua, you've done some Taiji before, so I'll make a few references to that because I know you'll know those postures. Brush knee twist step, look, hands up like this, it's spiraled up. It didn't just sort of, you know, do a circle. It, see, there's a little bit of a spiral within that circle. So spirals and circles just essentially work hand in hand throughout the whole form. You've got a circular section to it, but there's also a spiral happening through that circle. So sometimes a movement, the circle might be the more obvious thing to see, to feel. So in a basic sense, for beginners learning the foundational principles, we focus on the circle. So a movement at the beginner level may seem like, oh, it's just a circle. It's not a spiral, it's a circle. Whereas other movements, the spiral might be the obvious thing that you can see, and the circle might be a little less obvious. So we focus on the spiral in that particular movement. So yeah, when you're first starting out, some movements will seem a bit more like a circle, some movements will seem a bit more like a spiral. At the end of the day though, all of your movements will become both, okay? Another quick little thing about that, how does the, spirals are not just about, is the arm doing a spiral? That's just a very basic understanding of a spiral as opposed to a flat motion. It's got a bit of a twist. You see, there's a spiral. But the entire body at some point will start to spiral. So we have twisting, horizontal twisting. We can punch with horizontal twisting, but we can also generate power in this way, like shingi. Shingi is classically known for this type of power, as opposed to this type of power, twisting the body. They are classically known for these kind of strikes, as you'll see them going down the hall, boom, this kind of thing. They seem to be, a lot of people say, oh, they're not using their center. And sometimes they're not, obviously. There are some people out there not doing it very well. So they're not opening and closing their center. They seem to be anyway. They actually are, just very small. Because in those movements, the focus is on the vertical wave through the body this way with a small amount of this. Whereas a punch like this, the focus is on this with a small amount of this. So you see those two things at the end of the day start to work hand in hand, and that's what creates a spiral. I'm turning, but then if I open and close my center, opening and closing, as I'm turning, the entire body starts to spiral through the body. So essentially when you first start out, some movements will seem more circular, some movements will seem more spiralier, some movements will seem more horizontally twisted, some movements will seem more vertical, and you focus on that bit which is the more obvious section. Okay, let's now start the actual Bagua form. So since people are totally unfamiliar with the Bagua form, and it's a little bit more twist on the body compared to Taiji, we've done more preparation in this first class. So we haven't got a huge amount of time to do the form part, but Bagua requires a bit more preparation, such as what we've just been doing, compared to the Taiji. The Taiji is pretty well impossible to hurt yourself doing these first couple of movements. Even the first weighted movement, it's pretty soft and gentle. The Bagua posture, right from the get-go, we're going to be twisting and spiraling. So you've got to be aware of your body, hence the larger preparation before we start the form. Okay, now we'll start the form. Right, so imagine you're on your circle, okay? I will eventually try to get something. I probably won't paint on my carpet, but I'll do something so you can reference to the circle. But I think you should be able to understand what I'm saying just by me talking about it. So my heels, just imagine a circle is painted on the ground, like a 1-inch thick line going around here, around this center. Oh, by the way, the rough size doesn't have to be exact, but roughly, if you stand on your circle, standing on the edge, like on the edge of the barrel, and extend your arm out, right, to the side, that's where the center of the circle should be. So the center of the circle is the length of your arm from the edge of the circle. Roughly, it doesn't matter if it's not exactly that, it really makes no difference, but that's a rough guide. If it's sort of, double the size, you can do your Bagua form on a circle that big, or even a smaller circle. It can be done, but you need to understand where to place your feet then. So when we say things like, okay, your foot will turn 45 degrees off the center, or you'll put this heel and that toe on the circle, or things like this, these reference points as to where to place the feet on the circle, the larger the circle is, it's going to change where you would place your feet. So essentially, you learn the form, learn how to position your feet correctly for each posture using this correct sized circle. Then if you happen to be on someone else's circle, which is bigger, you can adjust to that circle because you already know your foot placement. Okay, standing on the circle, your feet are heels on the circle with your feet at 90 degrees to each other, like so. And all you're going to do to begin with is sink your weight onto your left leg, bending your knees at the same time, and just sliding your right foot forward, like so. Just slide it forward. Again, with reference to the circle, I would now have my left heel on the circle and my left big toe would be touching the circle. So if I face you, see it's kind of like heel in line with toe, like that. Both feet are parallel to each other. Well, it'd be pretty hard to have one foot parallel to the other foot and not the other one, wouldn't it? So, that's your movement. You sink, just sink your weight down, change your weight to your left leg, and slip your foot forward. Notice my center has turned slightly inside the circle, so I've turned slightly to my left, like so. Very simple. Okay, now, here's a little thing about Bagua. Bagua is done left and right. Everything in Bagua, well, let's say, I don't know the exact percentage, but let's say 90 to 95% of everything is done left and right without having to do the form on the other side. So as you saw me do before, you do the whole section, you walk around the circle, you do that whole section on the other side, you walk around the circle. Unlike the Taiji form where you have to do the entire form, finish, and then do the entire form on the other side, okay? Bagua, you just do little sections. It's split up into 8 separate sections. Each of those 8 sections are done on both sides before you move on to the next section. So in the beginning, it's a lot more symmetrical, left and right. There's a couple of, like this very first section, okay? This little section here, that movement, okay, that's just getting us into the movement, right? La-di-da. We walk the circle. Now we're starting the official form. So now we're going to do both things on both sides. And throughout the form, we do this movement, I don't know, probably 20 or 30 times or something. It's a very common movement through the form. So maybe, I think I did work it out, that you do that movement one extra time on that side. That doesn't matter. You don't feel, I personally do not ever practice the form starting the opposite way, like so, and saying, okay, I've got to make sure my body is 100% symmetrical, so I'm going to do the whole form one side and then the other. You can, there's nothing wrong with doing that if you wish, but I personally don't think there's any reason to. It sort of is confusing and complicated to do so, and there's not really any major benefit from doing that. But if you wish to, by all means, do that. If you want to be super pedantic about your left and right sides, you can just start the whole form on the other side. However, when you're first starting the form, and we're doing this squat down on one leg, we're repeating this movement over and over and over again, learning it, then it's a good idea to say, okay, yep, okay, sink down. Boom. So for example, today's class, we're only going to be doing this section on one side. You don't have the rest of the form yet. So until you have the rest of the form, it is a good idea to do that whole movement on the reverse side. Otherwise, come back to next week and you've only done one side of things, 100 times, and you're going to feel a bit out of balance. Okay. So, as you sink your weight, as you begin to sink your weight, your hands start like so, just in front of your body like that. They're quite yang to begin with. Okay, they're going to scoop in like that. They're going a little bit yin, but not yin-yin. They're not going fully yin. They're actually, at this point, they're actually still a little bit yang. They're just kind of softening off from where they were. You make like as if you're drawing cowboy guns. Okay, so they're spiraling in, they're tucking into your body, like so, as you're shifting your weight. Then as you sink down and push your foot forward, your hands go out with your foot, like so, into 2 number 4 palms. Very much the same as your standing Qigong type of shape. I'll go more into the palm shapes in another class. But that's the basic shape. We call it holding the baby. This posture is actually called leaning on a horse and asking for directions. But this is the same sort of shape as your hold the baby that you're used to in your Qigongs and your Taiji form. So sinking, spine straight. All of these principles are the same as your Taiji at the moment. Spine straight, pelvis tucked under, nice and vertical into that position. Okay? In breath, out breath. Your palms have the intent to be, see, the back of the hand, not maybe the fingers or the knife or something like that. It's the back of the hand striking across his neck. But the rounded shape of the arms, you see, like so, protects you at the same time. Next week if Fran's up, I'll show you the application properly. But keep your arms in that shape. See, we do not want this, something squeezing through the middle with the tucking sensation. The arms are boom. See that? So they squeeze up like that. The elbows bend, the hands tuck in, as I say, like you're drawing a couple of guns. But when they come forward, there is an element of extending the elbows, like so, but with a rounded structure, you see? So there is this happening, but not to the point where you reach out so far that you lose your rounded structure. Much the same as throwing a penetration punch in your Taiji form, you see? It's still a linear action, it's a straight action with the palm going forward, but you still maintain that rounded shape. Not so much that you bring it in, like so, you see? It's out, it's got that rounded aspect. So the first movement here is really all about stability, centering, posture. That's what we're getting from this first posture, this first movement. There's a very slight turn to the right as you coil the hands up and start to shift your weight. That's your in-breath, that's your preparation. And then as you sink, you breathe out and release that foot. Tucking your pelvis under, sinking back. I've just got about 10, maybe 5% of pressure on that front foot at the time being. Okay. In breath, out breath. When you breathe in, and that little, just that little twist of the pelvis, just a little bit that way. I'm not just, see, that's just me passively turning. I'm turning, but with the intent that I want to go that way. Again, I'll go more into the martial application of where the power is next week. But one thing I'll tell you today, it's not nighttime, is it? No, it's the morning. I didn't sleep well last night, so I don't know if it's nighttime or daytime. As I turn to the right leg is kind of pushing that way on the ground. It's trying to slip forward. This is very subtle, mind you. So I just feel a bit of pressure in here. So then when I release, it's like, see, it feels like that torque releases into the movement rather than feeling like I'm going to put my foot here now. It feels like, just there when I turn my body, there's a little squeeze, like as I say, like I'm pushing the foot on the ground, but because the foot's on the ground, of course, it doesn't move. So then when I pick up the foot, it's a spring-loaded kind of thing. You're letting that torque go in the leg. So, in breath. Now, I'm not saying that torque is going to take you completely into the movement. You're just following the direction of that torque. You're still doing a movement. It's like, there's a little bit of torque release. And I'm going to keep it going. Don't do it so much that it's like, okay, Eli said the torque has to go there, so I'm going to go. To spring. The spring is not taking the foot into the full position. The spring is just, you see? The movement of the foot forward is still very controlled. It's not springy and snappy like that. But you're just feeling that pressure, that torque in the hips here, when you release it, you see? Eyes looking forward to where your hands are going, of course. Head with your shoulders, just like in Taiji. Feet parallel, heel in line with toe. Let's try the opposite side of that, just to even out our legs. So we're going to be sinking into the right leg now, turning slightly to our left as the hands coil up. That little bit of pressure, and release it into posture. By the way, the front hand is about my own facial height, and the rear hand is at the elbow height of the front hand, like that, okay? Bring it back. Release it. Again, just a slight, see that? It's just kind of a squeezing to the side. Don't think about this as being like, oh, it's a turn this way, then a turn back this way. It's not. Both of the turns in this movement are very, very subtle. So I'm just turning, see, kind of like just off center to the one side, and then even that one, it's not a big, I mean, the second turn is bigger, but it's still not big. It's not like I'm throwing a big opening, extending kind of a punch. The movement is still more here, you see? That's the action we're looking at, as opposed to this. Because you'll notice the backhand is still coming forward. You see, when I do that movement, see, it's the both hands are coming forward. It'll make more sense when I show you the application. Again, left side. Sink down. Just a tiny controlling balance on that front foot. Don't plonk weight into it. Bum tucked under, head pulled back, like as if you're doing your Qigong. Your body structure at the moment is like you're doing your Qigong. Okay, as I said before, we haven't got through hardly any of the actual form, but you've had a good preparation there for Bagua, understanding the knees, the center turning, even though we haven't done that much of the form itself. I had planned to finish off that section today, but we will next week, we'll still go through those things as a warm-up, those twisting elements that I began with, but since I won't have to explain them this next week, just do them as a quick warm-up, 10, maybe 15 minutes in the total for that warm-up, and then we'll have a good 45 minutes to continue this movement, and we'll definitely get through that whole section of the Bagua and potentially even give you the beginning steps of the walking the circle. But just like I said in the Taiji form and the small sensao, we want to really make sure that we learn this stuff slowly, okay? I learned all of this stuff super slow. I learned that, I remember specifically because I learned that first. The Taiji form, it was, 1 to 2 movements. I think it was just those 2 movements in the whole first 2-hour class, which is what I taught to you guys in the first class, okay? Now, I did learn a bit quicker than that in terms of I was taking a class every day rather than every week, is what you're doing. So, you know, as I say, when you're learning online, when you're only learning once a week, it does sometimes make sense to give you a little bit more because you've got a whole week to practice those moves. If I had a whole week to practice moves, I'd probably want more than just 2. But I've only got that afternoon to practice those 2, and then we're into the next class. However, Dad wouldn't let me go on to the next one unless the first ones were kind of not perfect because I was a beginner, I was a kid, but I had to at least understand what it was that I was meant to be doing in those movements. So yeah, really make sure that your Bagua is slow and steady. For this week, I want you to focus on, until next week's class, obviously a lot of you are already doing Bagua, so by all means just practice your Bagua. But if you've never done any Bagua and this is your first introduction to Bagua, just focus on that move, okay? You can have a look at my other videos. They're on the website for free anyway for that first section of the form. If you want to move on, just to have a quick look and understand the movements, by all means. If you can't find it, let me know. I'll send you the link. But my advice would just be, do that just for a few minutes, 3 or 4 minutes each side, each day, little and often, rather than standing there for 3 hours on one day and then nothing for the rest of the week. Just get into the movement, repetition, do it the other side, just 2 or 3 minutes each side, each day. And then do the rest of your focus, obviously do your Taiji form, your small sansao, your Qigong, all your other practice. So for this week, you haven't got that much to practice in your Bagua. However, you should still practice maybe some of this twisting stuff. See if you can get that twisting to get a bit quicker while still stabilizing your knees, because in the Bagua form eventually you're going to be moving a little bit quicker. Yeah, so I hope you enjoyed that first class. Let's have a quick little see if anyone's got any questions, and then we're going to do a little bit of a workout class if anyone wants to join in for some strength and mobility.
Eli, you want to say something about stretching?
Yeah.
Stretching and cooling.
Oh, I wanted to say something about stretching and cooling. Yes, that's right. Thank you. I was like, what? What's your question? I'm glad I said that because I completely forgot. What am I doing? Hang on. Wait, I need to bring my face in here. Okay, right. Stretching and cooling down. Oh, yes. Nothing specific to say about it, but only that Tuesday evening, which is tonight, and Thursday evening after our 2 learning classes, small sansao and yang luchan's form, I'm going to start doing a stretching and cooling down session after that. So like now we're going to do a more of a strength mobility type of thing, more of a, you know, a little bit stronger on the body. It'll be a bit more yang. You'll feel like, yeah, come on, let's go. Developing the strength in your muscles for your Taiji and your Bagua. I'm going to do 2 sessions per week, which is essentially just me doing my cooling down, but I'll talk you through what I do to stretch out the body and really just very, very calming session. So as I say, it's an evening class, so if you don't have to get up too early the next morning and you feel like following that on just for an extra 30 minutes, we'll do our learning session and then we'll do a nice stretchy cool down type of thing for 30 minutes afterwards. So I just wanted to mention that just so you can, if you want to join, you can program it into your itinerary. All right, were there any questions about what we've just done?
No, not a question, an observation. The back and twisting one, I found that my intercostal muscles were going, what the heck's going on? It was a really good stretch there and there. So thank you for that.
Yeah, cool. Excellent.
I've got another little observation.
Yeah.
See, I've been practicing the Tai Chi and a bit of the Bagua and the basic for a good few years. I got your dad's basic form.
Okay.
And, see, when you put your intent into the circle, it seems to bring like more power into your movement. Just with your mindset in the middle. As you come back, you can feel it even more. Boom, goes right. It's just my observation. I just felt it one day when I was doing it, and like
Yeah.
because when I was doing and like starting off, it always felt like I was no power. Right?
Yeah.
And I was just stood there one day, and my mindset went into the circle in the middle.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, the minute I came back, it just went boom, and the power was right there. And it just wow. And
Yeah, cool. No, that helps you. Because, sometimes thinking about the circle itself, even though the center of the circle's over there, not the direction you're going, sometimes just by thinking about the fact it's a circle, it can just sort of connect your body to a rounded structure, even though you're going that way. So ultimately, your intent should be, like your eyes, your intent should be going out that direction where you're going. But sometimes just visualizing and thinking, okay, I'm on a circle, everything is circle, I'm connected, I'm part of the circle, it can help to follow that structure. Yeah,
that's really good. Very good. I've got another little question. See, over the years, it might sound a bit funny. See, over the years, right, as you were progressing through your form and everything, and a question formulated, and like you thought a question, but as you formulated it, you found the answer before you actually asked the question.
Yeah.
Because I get that a lot. See, like when you say at the end, any questions, and I think about what we've been through and that, but automatically you know before you ask the question.
Yeah, that's right. No, that's why I always tell people, try to come up with as many questions as you can by thinking about questions. What I do, what I've always done in my own training is to practice something for me, I pretend I'm teaching it. I stand there and go, right, I'm trying to understand this move. So I'm thinking, a lot of the time I speak out loud. I tend to speak out loud. There's new scientific information that says people who talk to themselves are actually geniuses, not crazy. So anyway, I'll talk my way through it. I'll say, right, so the right side of my body is squeezing as the right hand is poking out, and I'm talking it through. And that way you'll get to a certain move, and even if maybe when you flow through the form, it just kind of happens naturally, but then when you try to verbalize it, you're like, well, hang on, what is actually happening there? Am I going? And then you've got to work out what's happening in that movement. And by working out movements, I think both aspects here are so important in your training. It's important to understand something from a no-thought point of view. Your body just does the movements without any conscious thought whatsoever. But of course, you can't do that in the beginning. No. So the more details you can be given, the more precision you can be given in the beginning, the better you'll get those movements into your body. And then there's the flip side, of course, as I always do in class, where when we first begin, I'm like, just follow me through. Just follow me through. I'm not giving any details yet. I allow a person to just flow, just learn visually first until you've got the sort of the bare bones of where your hands are going, then layer in the details of the movements. Because if you start right from the very scratch and say, okay, we've got to get the hands exactly in this shape and the body exactly in this shape, people are like, what? Can you just show me the move first? They just want to feel some flow. That way, the movements kind of come from within a little bit more. So something comes from within your own body just by visually watching. At least the majority of the movement is coming from within. Then we can say, okay, so whilst you're doing that, just instead of your hand being here, try and put your hand here and give those details. The same thing is true for as we progress on to further enhancements of the form. Rather than me saying like, okay, your basic form is good, right, let's add all this stuff on top of it. Your basic form is good, okay, go and practice that. Keep practicing. Keep practicing. Hey, look, the student comes back to you. When I was doing my form the other day, I felt this wanted to happen instead of this. Perfect. Now you're ready for me to show you that. Because if you show them stuff just purely from a physical level, like, oh, you've got that right, now let's add this and add that, it all just becomes a bit robotic and too much up in the mind. So you've got to sort of wait for some of these things to happen naturally from within the student. And when you see those things begin to happen, then you can chuck in the details, because then that detail makes perfect sense. I remember specifically one time I was learning the Yang form, and I think I had learnt the form, so I had learnt the whole form, but I'd only just finished the form. And then I started going along to one of my father's monthly workshops where he was teaching the silk reeling, the spiraling concepts from within the form. Now, he was doing that because it was a workshop environment and he was teaching a whole bunch of different levels. Most of the people in that class weren't really ready for those spirals, but some of the people were. And he was making a video about it. And as you know, in a workshop, sometimes you do show stuff that's at a more advanced level. Anyway, I remember learning that, and it was like, you got to what now? You got to, which way have I got? It felt so awkward and physical to add these elements into my form, but I did it. I physically worked on it, and I did manage to get the coordination correct for those postures. About a year later, I was doing my form one day and I just went, I've just realized I haven't enjoyed my form for about the last 6 months. It just felt horrible because it felt so static and like all up in my head to get those spirals to happen. So I chucked it all out the window, went back to my basic form, and then I can't remember how many years later, my body started to want something more. It was like, this is great, but I'm feeling like there should be something more here in my postures. So then I had a re-look at those spirals, and now at that stage in my training, as soon as I looked at it, I just went, and Dad said, I think I watched the video, and Dad sort of said, okay, the hand's got to spiral in this way, the circles here, spirals here. He explained the move, and my body just went, oh yeah, that's yes, that's what I've been wanting to do for the last 6 months. If that's how it feels when you add something more to the form, you know you're ready to be adding that thing to your form. If it feels like you got to what and which way, if you got to break it down that much, yeah, you're probably not ready for it. So better to stick to your foundations. So yeah.
It's like one of those moments of magic. And I've had a few of them, and like as you've been find yourself progressing, you're like, whoa! And a lot of times it's came about by accident, and like you're just like, and then as it, like you said, when you just like relax and then just let it go, and you think, there it is.
Yeah. All right.
Cool.
Is there anything else? I feel like Esther has a question.
Yes, I have a question about slipping the foot forwards. So
Yes.
Is it a step or is it a slip?
It is a slip.
And it is only a slip with like the balls of your feet?
It depends what surface you're on.
Okay.
If you are on a polished surface with a sock on, you can slide the whole foot.
Mm-hmm.
If you're on more of a carpet and it's a bit more grippy, then just sort of lifting the heel a bit sort of helps the foot to slide. So essentially it's a slip, but the foot while it's slipping should be completely empty.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, if I'm wearing shoes and I'm outside, out here, and it's like a sort of bitumen road surface, the foot won't slide. It just won't slip on the ground. So you actually lift your foot just, like a millimeters off the ground, and you'll still sort of feel the little loose rocks under the foot. So it is a slide, but it's a completely empty slide, as opposed to like lifting the foot and pushing it forward. So yeah, there's no weight at all on that foot while it's slipping.
All right, thanks.
Dagmar?
Yeah, I have a question to the structure. If you throw the arms forward, you keep the structure here, but you twist here, right? Also you twist from the waist and the hips, turning the direction, but the structure for throwing the arms, you're keeping straight here. You are not. My tendency is to lose the structure when I twist. So my left arm is pulling a big back when I'm twisting. So I keep the structure like here and just move here, right? I keep
It should be. That's a good question. Let me go back to long screen. Okay, so if I do it facing you, let's get rid of that weight. If I do it facing you, first thing is the hands should thrust straight forward. So when the waist turns, you see, I don't want the hands doing something like this, in any way going off to the side. From the center point, that's where I'm starting. Of course, that center point would be kind of following the circle, you see. But just so that it's more obvious when I'm facing you here, see, because that's where my circle would be. You've got to stand on the circle so that you're going along the line. I wouldn't stand like here and have the circle going that way, because otherwise I'd be going off to the side of the circle, you see. I'm going to position my body so I'm following the circle already from the beginning. So when I do the movement, you see, the structure of that movement goes straight forward on that angle, even though the center is opening. So the structure of the arms, it's, okay, if I do it like this without turning my body, okay, so I just scoop it up and boom, something like that. Now the hands are, you know, level. You don't have this kind of shape. They're level like so. Now, you do that same feel. I think this is what you're meaning. You see? Now I'm going to do the same thing, but just do that same thing in a side-on position. So we get, you see? Both hands are still coming forward as opposed to something like that. Now I've got a clear one forward, one back kind of action, which is not what we want. We want, you see? Both hands are like some of those movements in the form where you kind of pounce out with the two hands going like that. One hand is forward, one hand is back, but they're both coming out. From a Taiji point of view, we do that in Fishes in 8. Look. You see? Boom. They're both attacking, bang, even though one hand is forward of the other. But because one hand is forward of the other, quite often people do Fishes in 8 like this, don't they? They open the center and split the hands. It's not a splitting action. So same deal here. It's just a little tricky because you do start front. If you started side on, all right, oh yeah, I can get that idea. Both hands are kind of coming forward into the movement. So I've got to get that from the front position, like so. Now, of course, that left hand, if I be pedantic about it, will have a little settle back towards the end of the movement. If you watch my left shoulder, it's here. See, that turn to my right, if I stop, this is what I was going to talk about next week, about the flow between the two, but I'll just briefly talk about it now. Watch when I do this move. You see, that turn has to be connected to the second turn. We don't want something like turn, stop, release. That feels horrible. It feels like I'm turning my shoulders that way, but trying to make my hand go that way. It just feels really awkward. So what we want is, it's like I'm going, like that. So there will be a little bit of retraction from that arm, but not to the point where you're splitting the hands, like so. So it's, you see, you can still see that shoulder has to come back. If my center is going to turn, the shoulder has to come back. But since the movement, the power of the movement is coming much more from this kind of vertical line as opposed to a twisting kind of action like a punch, it allows you to get both hands maintaining that structure of that defensive action as we're coming forward.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome. Bitteschön.
Dankeschön.
All right then. I'm going to do some stuff now. Some shoulder and legs. If anyone wants to join me, I'm going to do some squatting things and some. See you later, Robert.
Hi, thank you very much.
Some shoulder stuff on the floor and some leg stuff. If anyone wants to join, feel free.
Bye.
Okay.
Oh, before I go, Eli, I just want to say, see, remember I was talking about the fusion? See this?
Yeah.
It loads. So anybody that's got pain in the top of their spine, this one, it really, really helps.
Oh,
Especially,
good. Okay.
yeah, what a
Yeah.
difference.
Fantastic.
Like, I had to turn it my waist to see in my peripheral. Now I
Yep.
can do that. And that's just in the space of a week. It's still a bit sore, but the movement's coming. It's getting looser. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Excellent.
Go on.
Fantastic.
Cool.
All right.
Say goodbye then. Cool.
Thank you.
Thanks, Deb.
Yep. And Ian.
Thank you.
All right. I'm just going to do I'm not going to do too much this morning because we've gone a lot into this with question and answers today. So people are going to get off to do other things, including myself. So we'll just do a quick little thing for the legs, quick little thing for the shoulders. We'll just do 2 elements this morning. Okay. We're already warmed up, so obviously we don't need to do any warming up. Our legs are warm, our bodies are warm. So what I'm going to do is we're going to go, actually let's keep it really simple, really focused and simple. We'll do a nice opening movement first, getting our bodies ready for snake creeps down and duck lands. Oh, got the hiccups. Duck lands on water. So push your foot open that hip as much as you can, like so. And then just sink your body down as low as you can. If you can get it down to touch the knee, lovely. Bring it back up, turn the foot in, turn the foot out. Notice I'm keeping my body to the front, keeping this leg straight, and obviously this leg bent. Bring it back up, turn the foot in. Adjust your length, the length of your stance according to how low you're going. If you feel like that leg needs to slip out a little bit, allow it to, so that you're not lifting up onto the ball of the foot. Keeping that leg a little bit soft, but still bent, coming down. Another thing you can do here, if you want to get down, but maybe you've got the flexibility, but not the strength, you can actually put your hand on your knee here and let it slide onto the elbow. You see? This allows me to get the full sort of range of motion happening, but see, I'm actually using my arm a little bit to help me get back up. So as I go down into the, that's getting a bit difficult. Putting some weight here transfers your body weight straight through your shin here, so you're not supporting it by your muscles, you're supporting it by the directness of the joint. So, and then as you come off it, it can come back up again. So that's a nice way to get the full range of motion happening still, but making it a little bit easier on your body, rather than just, going down half. Of course, it requires that you've got the flexibility to do it. And if possible, keep your hands up. Open your body out. Really feel it in here. Notice I'm leaning over that leg. Leaning over, so it's almost like my body and my leg are kind of in the same line-ish. If at any point you need a break, just stand up for a little while and then jump back in. Okay, relax your legs. That'll give you a very strong groin. Doing those ones. We want to get those postures so that we feel comfortable with them, so they're not feeling like, oh my God, they're so difficult, so that we can stay relaxed in our Taiji and Bagua forms. Okay, let's hit the glutes a little bit. So we're going to try, we've already done it this morning. This one, We started off with that one. We're going to go straight into the twisting version. So we're going to pivot on the balls of the feet. Standing leg, front leg, is going to pivot 135 degrees, so to the rear corner. Then you twist, spiral down, weight on that glute as you drop it down. Pivot back to the front. Keep your knees strong. Take it easy. Listen to your body. If you feel any adverse pressure on your knees, stop. Check what you're doing. Pivot around, bring all, like 90% of the weight down into that front leg, knee in line with toe, rear foot planted on the ground. Keep your big toe down. Don't let your big toe sag off the ground. Keep your big toe down and drop. Feel it here. Concentrate the pressure onto that glute. If that glute's not firing properly, you will then put pressure where there shouldn't be pressure. So get that glute switched on. Back to the front. Drop it down. If you can touch that knee on the ground, great. If not, you might just go to this height, or this height. But if you can get that knee down to the ground, lovely. But do not put any weight on that knee when it touches the ground. It's just a gentle up and then straight back up. So you're continually keeping the pressure on that glute. It's important here to make sure you're leaning over as well. We're not trying to stay like this in a vertical position. That's a nice movement as well. It works the muscles differently, but for this particular movement, we want to be going, you see? Like if I'm going really low, like as if I'm trying to put my head down to my knee, you see? So I'm leaning over, because that helps to engage the glutes as well by leaning over. All right, that'll do for the legs. Let's go into a little bit of core and shoulders. So we're going to sink down, walk ourselves into a plank. We'll just do the old walkie forward thing first. So from here, sinking down, stretching your hamstrings a little bit, nice straight back. Walk your hands forward. Put your knees on the floor whenever you feel you need to, but preferably keep them off the ground into a full plank, and then just walk back. You'll feel your obliques, the side of your core, of your abdominal area, engaging each time you shift your weight from one hand to the other, because you're stopping the twist from happening. So, like so. This time you're going to keep walking, but take your hands out wide as you walk forward. So you'll feel your weight shifting more side to side as you move. There's a little bit more pressure on your core. Slightly different pressure on your shoulders as well. Getting a little bit more into the side of the shoulder as we're moving. Walk your feet in till you come up into a squat. Squat. If you can't squat, you might need to put your hands behind you if you're falling backwards. If you can squat, then just squat. Now, I'll just show you the easy version first. Shuffle your hands, put your bum on the ground. Walk, walk, shuffle your bum. Walk, walk, shuffle your bum. Walk, walk, shuffle your bum. Do the same thing back. Walk, walk, shuffle your bum. Walk, walk, shuffle, walk, walk, shuffle, walk, walk, until you come back into a squat. If you can try and keep the bum off the ground as you walk backwards, like so, that's preferable, till your legs straighten out, and then walk back. Same again, this time walk halfway, push your pelvis up, if you can, at least, even if it's just that much, something, just lift it as high as you're able to, drop it back down, walk again, back to the end, walk back. Of course, all of these things, I'm layering them in. As I always say, I'm layering in these movements so you can stay on the previous one. If you find one of these things really difficult, stick with that one. If I move on to the next stage, just do that previous stage again. Okay? And at any time you're walking through, maybe you get to the end here and you go, oh, okay, put your bum down. Just have a little rest. And then, okay, here we go. Lift your bum up and walk backwards again, or forwards. Okay, so if you need to drop your bum at any moment, just drop it down to give yourself a rest. Now from this position, maybe give yourself a little rest. Charge yourself up. Okay, push your palms down into the ground, shoulders back and down, and then again, I'm going to whack my head here. Lift your pelvis up, okay? And again, it doesn't have to be right up, just a little bit. Just get it up off the ground, just a smidgen. Something's better than nothing. Okay, relax it down, and again, walk back. Okay, most difficult version now. As soon as you take your first steps out, you're going to start lifting your pelvis all the way up. Keep it up. And it's still up. Keep it up, keep it up, keep it up. And just drop it down towards the end. One more of those, or the previous one, remember. Drop your pelvis whenever you need to. Drop your bum on the floor whenever you need to. Okay, sit, relax, give your shoulders a relax, bend your wrists back the other way, either just like so, if that's all you want, or you can put them on the ground like that, and just bend the wrists gently back the other way, just to ease them out of it. Okay, we're going to try the side stabilization. Okay, so let's say we're going to do this one. We're going to stand here like so. So, one foot extended out, extended fully out. This palm is in the same line as that back foot. Okay, I've got this leg just here to the side of me. Obviously exactly where this arm is, just figure that out as you go along. If you feel it's like, oh, that's too far away, but that's too tight, it's, you know, you'll figure out where that's got to be. Okay, you're going to push your bum up onto this knee and this hand, you see? And drop it down. Push it up. Can you lift it a bit higher by sliding the knee in, trying to get that hip a little higher? But a lot of weight's still on the knee, so it's still fairly easy. Then slide the knee to drop it back down. You'll feel your shoulder working to stabilize. You feel your core working through here. Little lift, bigger lift, hold it. Feel your shoulder, feel your core, drop it down. Now, if you find that really difficult, just stay with that one. If you're not finding it too hard, then we're going to try to extend this leg to the rear leg. So we're going to stand up, up, right up, and take that foot off the ground. Bring that one back, relax it, and down. If you found that okay, not too hard, let's move on to the next one. If you found it difficult, stay with that one. Okay, stay with the one that's comfortable for you. Bring it back. From that position, see how I'm nice and concave, pushing up here. I'm going to drop this hip down, trying to touch the hip down on the ground, keeping the shoulder strong, and push it back up again in that position. Drop it back down, push it back up. Bring your knee in, relax down. Let's try all of those on the reverse side. Make sure you're not sitting on your microphone. So, same thing on the reverse side. A little lift. Is that okay? Back down. A bigger lift. Keeping the knee on the ground. Are you okay with that? If so, do the next one. Lift it up again. Extend the leg. Bring it back in. Relax back down. Try that one again. That's getting a little more difficult now. Hold it. Bring it back in and relax your body back down. Last one. Up. Up. Drop. Stretching through here and bring it back up again. There are other things we could do with this hand, but I'm not worrying about those now. I'm trying to get you to focus on the structure of it. Up and down and up and down. One more for luck. Up and down. Bring the leg in and relax. Okay, let's just do a little bit more for the back. So, you can do this one of two ways. Let's do the easy way first, and then I'll show you the more difficult way. So we'll just layer it in like we've been doing. Just lie on the floor. Bring your feet in, and just push your feet up, like so. Sorry, not your feet, your bum, your hips. Push it up. So engage your glutes. Really make sure your glutes are hard here. Touch your bum. Is it working? Is it firing? Are those glute muscles switched on? Drop it down. Push it up. Drop it down. Push it up. If you find that easy, then lift one leg and fold it over, and then push it up. And sit it down. Push it up. Sit it down. Up. Again, glute. Get that glute on. Take that leg off. Put it down. Switch legs across the knee. And down. Up. And down. Up. And down. Up. And down. Up and down. Okay, we'll finish with our little get up movement that we've been doing with each of these classes. So sitting on your knees, relaxing on your ankles, like so. Stand up. 1, 2, sit back down. That's really easy. Most people can do that. Now try it with your hands on the ground, fists on the ground, or fingertips, whatever's more comfortable for you. Fingertips or fists. Bring your foot in. Can you get your foot in like that? Do you have enough mobility to bring one foot in and then back? Up, back. Tuck it in. One major thing that will stop you being able to do this is if you are overweight. If you've got a big belly there, or if you're pregnant, obviously you won't be able to do that particular movement. Tuck it in, tuck it back. Tuck it in, tuck it back. Tuck it in, tuck it in, tuck it back. Tuck it back. Tuck it in, tuck it in, tuck it back. Tuck it back. Okay? If you're feeling okay with that, either do that one again or try and do the both feet together version. So same thing, nice and slow, tuck it in and drop it back. You've got to obviously put more weight on your shoulders now. Just slide your feet in. I'm trying to keep as low as I can, so you see I'm not doing that. I'll do it sideways. I'm not going like this and lifting my bum right up in the air when I do it. I mean, I am lifting to some degree because my legs just won't bend that way, you see, but I'm trying to stay as low as I can. So in this position, from sort of arm's length, you see I'm tucking in and down, not tucking up and down. But you know, as I say, if you need to lift a little bit higher, well, that's, that's okay. Just what I'm saying is try to stay as low as you're able to in that position. Squat and back down. Squat and back down. One more like that. Squat and back down. Okay, and then the last one. Remember, only do this one if you're feeling very strong and you know your own body. Don't even try it if you've never tried it before. In fact, let's do one interim one. Still with your palms on the ground. So you still use your hands. I like to use my fingertips for this one because it gets me a little bit higher off the ground, but you might not be comfortable putting your weight on your fingers, so put it on your fists. Do the same thing, but just kind of, you see, a little bit of a jump. Instead of placing it down and then put the hands on the ground and hop. See, a little bit of a jump into the movement. So push your weight forward, hop. You see, little hop and a little hop backwards. Hop forwards and hop backwards. Hop forwards and hop backwards. So that's a nice little interim one, getting a little bit of momentum into the movement. And then the goal is to be able to spring yourself up from there. And again, staying low, not jumping up in the air. Just flicking your feet out and into that position, okay? And then same thing, be very careful going back. You should always be on a soft surface when you're first learning this, of course, to not damage your ankles or anything, because you might hit the ground a bit too hard. So you're trying to hit the ground as softly as possible. Hop. You see, I'm still putting my feet down first. I'm not just crashing down onto my knees or something, so be very careful. Don't do that if you're unsure of it. Okay, so hop, hop. You see? Hop, hop. See, my feet are hitting the ground before my knees. Hop, 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 hop. Okay, but yeah, be very, very careful with that last one. All right, that'll do us. Well, thanks for joining me for that one, Adam. It's nice to have at least one of you sticking around for the hard stuff.
No worries.
In their defense, it is a Tuesday morning coming up to, work time. So most people have probably got to get ready for work by this point.
Yeah, it's what time? It's late afternoon here now.
Yeah. We're just coming up on 8 o'clock here. So, and a lot of those people are in Europe as well. So that's an hour ahead. So they're coming up on 9 o'clock. So, yeah, but no, I enjoy doing all that stuff. It's nice to get your body really physically fit. That's the problem with Tai Chi people along the, I was meaning to do a little video about it. It's like, Tai Chi is such an amazing strength building exercise, but 99% of the people out there, Tai Chi people are just so freaking lazy, Tai Chi, oh no, Tai Chi's soft, Tai Chi's relaxing. It's like they use it as an excuse. Oh, I don't like exercise, I'll go to Tai Chi. But of course you go to a proper Tai Chi class and then they're like, what? I thought this was supposed to be relaxing. I'm like, yeah, well, you want a stupid Tai Chi class that doesn't actually do anything for your body. Then it's going to be all lovey-dovey and relaxing. But no, it's if you get this strength stuff alongside that total soft relaxation yin side of things, then we have a balanced body. So, yeah. All right, well, thank you for joining me, and hopefully see you soon.
Yeah. Have a good day.
Yeah, you too.